Welcome to Om Times TV, a division of Om Times Media and Broadcasting. Healing with crystals is an ancient practice. Yet did you know that the essence of gemstones can be used in homeopathy? Spiritual awakening, self-awareness, and intuition are some of the gifts that gemstone remedies can bring to your life. Homeopath, teacher, and author Giovanna Franklin will show you a different perspective on the healing properties of these magical gemstones. Join us in Gemstones and Crystals in Homeopathy and discover the power of gemstone remedies.
Hi, welcome everybody. This is another episode of Gemstones and Crystals in Homeopathy. I am your host, Giovanna Franklin, and today I am going to talk to you about homeopathic Tanzanite. And I'm very excited because homeopathic Tanzanite did not exist until I decided to do a group proving of this gemstone. And I'm going to tell you everything that we found out about Tanzanite. First of all, what is Tanzanite? So Tanzanite is a gemstone, and it was only discovered in the 1960s in a small area in Tanzania, and that's the only place where this gemstone can be found, which means it's pretty rare. And the color of Tanzanite, and I'll show you if you can see it. I purchased a small number of these raw, natural, certified Tanzanite pieces. As you can see there, they are blue, an intense blue. But the color of Tanzanite, not many people know that when it's first excavated and dug out, it's actually brown, and it gets its characteristic color, which is a kind of fleur-de-lis, forget-me-not, kind of beautiful blue, and sometimes with purple hues. But that depends on the way that the stone is cut. And then subsequently, to make jewelry with Tanzanite, the gemstone also gets heated. This is a common practice in jewelry. They use heat to enhance and sometimes even change the color of natural gemstones. And therefore, it's important for our purposes, in order to make remedy out of a gemstone, to make sure that the gemstones we use initially are raw, natural, untreated, and of course, genuine. So what did I do? So first of all, as I say, I purchased a few of these stones, and I made sure they came with a certification. And the first thing that I did was make what you could call a mother tincture, or an elixir, or an immersion. So I did this. That was on the 27th of May. And I remember the date because it was a full moon. It's not necessary technically, but I like the fact that we were having a particularly powerful full moon at the time. And so I placed the gemstones in a bowl, a glass bowl full of distilled water. I covered the bowl with a glass lid, and I placed the whole bowl with the gemstones immersed in water outside, exposed for 48 hours to the moonlight and the sunlight. Now, it doesn't matter if you don't have a garden. If you want to do this with any other gemstone yourself, you can do this just by exposing the bowl to the window, for example, close to the window, just as long as it has the exposure to sunlight and moonlight. So I did that, and then I decanted some of that water into a smaller dropper bottle. with a bit of alcohol in it in order to preserve it. That was my mother tincture. That was my Tanzanite elixir, if you like. And at the time, obviously, I did that by myself, and I decided to try it. So take a few drops daily for a few days. And I did experience some effects. And some of them were quite distinctive. So I did have experience like a sort of dull pain on my right side where the ovaries are straight away. And I even had a dream about a swelling in the position where my right ovaries are. And I also had a dream about talking to a man who had a couple of big dogs and stroking the dogs in the dream, which is unusual for me because I'm quite scared of dogs in real life normally. And even in my dreams, if I am ever dreaming about dogs, the dogs will be scary. And another thing that I found interesting for me was that I had an aversion to chocolate. I didn't like chocolate, which again is incredibly unusual for me. So that was my personal experience. That was just my curiosity trying out the immersion for myself. But that does not mean that we have done a proving when we do this, because in order to have a proper proving, you need a group of people. And then what happens is that you go through the testing, everybody tries it, and then you take all the experiences that are common to most of the members of the group, and that's what ends up in the materia medica, which is the description of the picture of the remedy. But first, before I did all that, I had to get the remedy made, because what I had at that point was an elixir. There was an immersion of Tanzanite. So luckily for me, where I live, we have a homeopathic pharmacy, and I asked them to take the elixir, the mother tincture that I had, and they could make, and I asked them to make a potency, a 30C potency. Now, I chose this particular potency because it's the most common one. It's medium-low potency, so it's not too powerful. And when you're doing a proving, it's usually best to start low, because you never know what you might get. You don't know what kind of symptoms people might get. You don't know how sensitive people are, and you don't want anybody to have any uncomfortable symptoms, let's say. So once I had the remedy in tablet form and a 30C potency, that's when I started to advertise and ask for volunteers to come and do a proving. Now, a lot of people applied. It takes a lot of commitment to do a proving. It sounds like fun, like, yes, you are trying something that has never been tried before, it's never been tested before. It's only 1 week, so it doesn't sound like much, but it is very important that people, the provers, commit to the whole process. And what does that involve? So it involves taking the remedy. First of all, it involves feeling balanced, both physically, mentally, being in a right place, in a stable situation. So you're not being particularly stressed out, or you're not going through any particularly stressful situation. You're not moving house, you're not changing jobs or anything like that. So everything is nice and stable. You're feeling good. You're not under medication. You're not drinking alcohol. And so you start taking the remedy. So while you're taking the remedy, you journal, you write down. You need to be the observer, the witness of your own self. and you start writing down anything unusual, anything that happens while you are taking this remedy. And it could be anything. It could be something on the physical plane, something on the emotional plane, dreams, anything, anything that that you have not experienced before. So this is a kind of a little bit of a jump, of a leap into the unknown. And for that reason, I really, really am grateful to the provers who agreed to come with me, to do this with me, and committed to writing down, and then at the end of the week, put all their notes together and sent them to me. So it was like homework. And, you know, like I say, it sounds like, you know, it doesn't sound like very much, but if you have a busy life, you have a family, you have other things, you know, it's something more. And not everybody can go through with it. And sometimes it can also be uncomfortable because, like I said, we don't know what the remedy is going to bring. Sometimes the symptoms can be painful even, or uncomfortable emotionally. They can be uncomfortable. They can trigger something in us, perhaps past memories, past trauma. So all these things can come up. And of course, I made sure that everybody was aware of this before starting. But still, it's something that I'm very grateful for. I'm very grateful to the provers who came with me with this. So that said, when I said that the remedy was prepared in a pharmacy here in Glasgow, Scotland, it means that this remedy is now available, but it's only available for the moment here from this pharmacy, which is called Freeman's, and they do deliver. If you want to purchase the 30C Tanzanite remedy, you can. They ship abroad as well. I don't have any business or financial ties with this remedy. It's just a remedy that I asked them to make, and they can sell it, and I just give it to the world, and I'm quite happy. I did speak to other pharmacies in the US that I normally contact, and so they are aware that this remedy is on the market, and so they will probably buy it as well, and they will be available as needed in other countries. So, okay, so what did we find out? This is why we're here today. So the group proving, the provers were based in different countries all around the world, some of them in Australia, some in the US, some in the UK. Everybody had instructions on how to take this remedy individually. They did not communicate with each other during the proving, the week of proving, so as not to influence each other. So the notes that each individual sent to me were unique to the prover, to the individual prover. Then my job was to put all these notes together, including mine, and see what the common denominators were. And this is what we were looking for, the common denominators, because if everybody experienced a particular symptom, that means that remedy will help people who are suffering from that particular symptom. Because remember, we're always talking about the like cures like principle, which is one of the main principles in homeopathy. So if we talk about physical symptoms, one symptom that most of the provers experienced was headache. So we can have a fair conclusion that this Tanzanite remedy could help with headaches. Most of the provers experienced reduced appetite and with nausea as well, and kind of desire to eat clean. Feeling worse for rich food. Remember that when I took the immersion myself, I did not like chocolate anymore suddenly. So rich food is, there's a kind of aversion to rich food, an increased sensitivity to smells, to food smells. There was a lot of tiredness for everybody. This was experienced particularly immediately after taking the first dose of Tanzanite 30C. Tiredness and sleepiness. I remember I had to lie down as well and just really take a nap. There was reduced thirst. Some physical pain around the kidney area and the ovary area, particularly on the right-hand side. And then one prover, and now this is really exciting, but at the same time, I cannot state with certainty because it was only one prover who experienced this. But the interesting thing was that this prover had been suffering from symptoms, neuralgic symptoms from mold exposure for a long time, particularly in the extremities, pain in the hands and tingling in the fingers or numbness. And she was really happy at the end of the proving because even after the first dose of Tanzanite 30C, she said her long-standing symptoms had gone. She felt so much better. She had even more energy. And that's another thing that many of the provers experienced, that after the initial tiredness and sleepiness, somehow there was an increase in energy. There was a feeling of being more productive. So this was quite exciting. There was only one prover in the group who had these symptoms of mold exposure, and it would be interesting to see, maybe to try this remedy on people who have been exposed to mold and have similar symptoms. So, like I said, I cannot state definitely this remedy would help with that, but it is something that I wanted to highlight and I wanted to note. Now, Tanzanite, like I said before, it's a relatively young gemstone. And in terms of crystal healing in general, we don't have a tradition with Tanzanite in the same way that we have with diamonds or with rubies and with, other well-established gemstones, where we have traditions in healing of hundreds, if not thousands of years. And yet, Tanzanite already has a reputation for being a kind of transformation stone. It's called. I Googled around, searching for information on Tanzanite. And it does seem to have an affinity with kidney function. And it is said to have regenerative properties. So it is interesting. And by the way, I looked for this information after we did the proving. So it is interesting that we also felt some connection with the kidney function. And when we're talking about kidney function, we're also talking about perhaps detoxing function. And it may explain why the prover who had these symptoms, who was so badly affected by mold, felt better. Because if your kidneys, our kidneys are filters, if your kidneys are working better, you will be able to expel toxins more effectively and you will feel better. It is also said to have a spiritual properties in terms of peace, have a peaceful effect, and that's also something that most of us experienced. And so it's interesting. It's always interesting to see the connection between the lore when it comes to crystal healing and compare it with the effect that the homeopathic version of the gemstone. And we often find that whenever we turn a substance, any substance, into a homeopathic remedy, the natural properties of that original substance become amplified, and they get a wider and wider spectrum. So other things that we found, and I divided the findings, the results, into physical, mind, and emotional / spiritual. When it comes to the mental plane and the emotional and spiritual plane, we found that the results were reflecting probably the Tanzanite and the land where Tanzanite lives, which is Africa. So when you think about Tanzania, now I've never been there, but I know it's a beautiful place. Nature is beautiful. Of course, it's Africa, so it's hot. And stating the obvious here, but think about nature. Think about the relationship that people living there have with nature, actually living in more symbiotic way with nature, definitely a much closer relationship with nature than we have in our cities in the West and so on. So this very much was reflected in the results that we saw collectively when it came to mind and emotional symptoms. And I think actually before we go deeper into the mind and spiritual symptoms, it might be a good place to have a commercial break and then come back.
Om Times TV.
In her book, Gifts from the Earth, Giovanna Franklin illustrates the healing properties of 12 gemstone remedies. Access real case studies from her practice and dive into the wonderful world of gemstone remedies. This is a practical guide on how to use gemstones in homeopathy. Whether you are an experienced practitioner or a beginner, you will find this book a fascinating read. Gifts from the Earth is available at Amazon. The Academy of Evolutionary Homeopathy is a members-only online learning center. A place to learn about homeopathy and other holistic modalities. For $22 a month, you will have unlimited access to evergreen courses like Gemstone Remedies, Sea Remedies, Metamedicine, and Biogeometry, and much more. Follow the Academy of Evolutionary Homeopathy on Facebook. See you there.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse, walk a mile in my shoes.
Hi, welcome back. So we were going to start to go a bit further into the symptoms that we found on the mental plane, on the psychological plane, and on the emotional, spiritual plane. So, what we all found initially, and again, when I was talking about the fatigue, a little bit of tiredness, we also experienced some brain fog. But after that, there was a sense of being more productive, getting more things done, but at the same time with a sense of calm, with a sense of relaxation, with a serenity, and even a sense of it doesn't matter if it doesn't work, or if this doesn't come off, or if I cannot accomplish this today, it will be fine. Everything will be fine. There was this sense of it's all right, let it go. Very, very calm, very, very serene. There was desire to be in nature, even for people like me who are city people. I'm a city person, and I even had the desire to be in the sun, which for me, everyone who knows me knows that I do not function well in the heat. It's quite warm over here at the moment. Yes, I know it's summer, but we are in Scotland. We're not used to the heat, and I definitely never ever stay in the sun. But I had this overwhelming almost desire to step out outside in my garden and actually sit down in the sun, thinking, I need this. This is going to do me some good. And that's very, very unusual for me. A deeper love, a deeper connection with animals, with pets. And that's for most of the provers. Remember at the beginning when I tried just for myself the immersion, the Tanzanite immersion, I had this dream about dogs and being friendly and stroking dogs, which would not normally happen. And desire to eat clean, to eat simple food. One of the provers mentioned in her notes, she had this feeling, this what she called hunter-gatherer feeling, as in just eat what you need, don't overeat, don't be greedy, just eat what you need, what your body needs, not out of greed or gluttony. And so just eating simple food. And that really made me think about the people who live in Tanzania, who will probably just eat simple food, natural food, things that grow there, no prepackaged, no processed food, because it's simply not easily available. And so this relationship, this closer relationship with nature, and this appreciation for nature, and also this sense, almost like fatalistic kind of way of thinking, that everything's been taken care of. There is a higher power. Nature is so powerful, and we don't need to struggle. We don't need to hustle. We don't need to stress to get what we want. Things are going to happen anyway. There is this. I distinctly remember working under this influence, doing things, getting things done, but with a sense, without the sense of hurry. You know, there is the deadline. I need to do this by tomorrow. And it's all right. Everything will be okay. Everything will be fine. Very, very chilled. So that was a very powerful, but good feeling. Everybody had this feel good factor. And we all felt this. So this is quite important. When most of the provers, or even the whole group, feels a certain symptom, a certain thing, it means that that's what the remedy gives. That's the gift from this particular remedy. And similarly, on the emotional and spiritual plane, we had this a sense of inner peace. Some of the provers had sadness. They experienced sadness and a certain nostalgia, melancholia for the past. So this remedy seemed to trigger memories. It was not like a depressive state. It was more a feeling of longing for the past. But that was, I would say, that was to a lesser extent than the feeling, this overwhelming feeling of being at one with nature. One of the provers lives near a mountain, and in her daily walks, she would obviously, the mountain is always there and has always been there. But she felt a very special attraction that was really unusual. Like, she was always attracted. She would look at the mountain, walk towards this mountain. It was almost as if she was more aware of her surroundings, of her natural surroundings. And that mountain was quite significant for her. And that's also interesting because Tanzania is where the Kilimanjaro is, and that was a connection for me. So it may have something to do with perhaps desire to, again, nature, being one with nature. But again, it's so interesting to see how gemstones, the remedies, the substances of the remedies, bring us back, take us with them. They take us to the place where they were born. So it's like we're being transported to Tanzania somehow. And so the mountain becomes an important feature. And in general, this remedy would help probably someone who is on edge, maybe stressed out, someone who has a very busy, frenetic lifestyle, just to slow you down, just to make you realize that there are other things, perhaps more important things and bring you down to a more humane, a more natural pace. One of the provers described Tanzanite as a cross between rescue remedy and sepia, because rescue remedy, for those who are not familiar, is a Bach flower remedy mix, and it's typically used for when you're stressed out, when you're feeling a bit anxious, a bit agitated. You take a few drops of rescue remedy and it calms you down. Sepia is a homeopathic remedy, and one of the symptoms, one of the reasons why it is prescribed is because sepia is quite irritable and snappy, and particularly irritable with family members, with your children, with your spouse, and so on. And so she found that Tanzanite really, really brought some peace, some calm. It had definitely a calming effect. It was as if the daily mundane irritations that we all have, something is not working, the car is not starting, the train is late, something like that would normally irritate you. With Tanzanite, it didn't matter. You just thought that it's okay, I'll get it next time, or it will be fine, or it's not the end of the world, I can sort it out, and it's okay. So I would say this is a very good remedy for that. I even gave this remedy to one of my children, who is a teenager, and he was in a mood, and he was having an argument, and I just gave him one dose, and it was amazing the effect that it had on him. He calmed down instantly, just dropped the argument. He just went, well, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. I can do this some other time. It was really, really interesting to see. Particularly, obviously, I did not tell him, he didn't know. He knew that he was taking a homeopathic remedy just to make him feel better. He's used to that. But it was very interesting for me to notice that. This relationship with nature is also incredibly important with this particular remedy, and the relationship with food as well, because we all felt this need to eat light, to eat healthy, to eat clean, and just enough to satiate the hunger, very conscious of not taking any more that we need, but also any more in terms of resources, very conscious of natural resources and how we use and how we take advantage of natural resources, again, as part of nature. So you don't take any more that you need, which is what animals do. When you think about it, animals only take what they need and they leave the rest. They're not greedy, they don't hoard, they don't accumulate for the sake of it. So that was also a very, very beautiful sensation. And the initial tiredness that was caused by the remedy then was turned into a more focused energy, a more focused productivity, a feeling of accomplishment. And so we thought this remedy might also be useful for those who have issues with focus and attention span, for example, and also self-confidence. So one of the provers noticed that she felt much more self-confident. She had been through some issues, personal issues, and she found that with this remedy, she could accomplish more during the day, and she had more focus, and she also felt better about herself, about her accomplishment about what she could do. She noticed that she was good at doing what she was doing, which was very important to her, of course. And then again, the exposure to mold that one of the provers had experienced, and the positive results of her symptoms after taking Tanzanite, that is something that I would like to try again, perhaps on someone who has similar issues, to see if this remedy is definitely suited for those who have issues with, for example, mold toxicity. It may be that this remedy is quite useful to strengthen the immune system, detox and strengthen. Personally, I think this remedy has a lot of potential. We did this proving was 1 week long. There was 6 provers in total. It's never been done before, and so it would be perhaps useful for other people to try this remedy now that it is available in 30C potency. Perhaps even try and potentize it further, and in the, higher potency. It would be interesting to see, for example, what a 1M potency of Tanzanite does compared to the 30C. But I thought this was very worthwhile proving. I mean, the fear whenever I do a proving of a new remedy is that nothing comes up. Everybody comes back saying, well, I didn't actually feel anything, or, you know, or no, there's nothing conclusive, or everybody felt something different, and so you cannot really draw any conclusions. But this was very, very interesting. So you can actually now find the whole description, the whole proving with the symptoms of Tanzanite 30C from my website, homeopathyheal.co.uk, in the resources page. I made it in a really lovely ebook, and so you can find it there. If you want to participate in further provings in the near future, you can email me. My email address is info@homeopathyheal.co.uk. So, like I said, right now, if you want to actually find the remedy, you can get it from Freeman's in Scotland. They are obviously online, and you can order them. Or alternatively, if you have any doubts or any issues, email me. And yeah, and I think that's it for today. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.
This show is not intended to diagnose, prevent, or treat any diseases or illnesses. The information presented within cannot substitute the advice of your physician or other trained healthcare professionals. The content of this show is for educational purposes only and is the expressed opinion of the show host and guests.